We're going to start in 1 minute. The December 15, 2020 special meeting of the Monroe County Legislature will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll? Mr. Alcoffer.
Here.
Mr. Alcoffer is present. Mr. Ansello.
Here.
Mr. Ansello is present. Ms. Barnhart.
Here.
Ms. Barnhart is present. Mr. Baroff.
Here.
Mr. Baroff is present. Mr. Baines.
Here.
Mr. Baines is present. Ms. Boyce.
Here.
Boyce is present. Mr. Brew.
Here.
Mr. Brew is present. President Carbone.
Here.
President Carbone is present. Mr. Colby.
Present.
Mr. Colby is present. Mr. Delahanty.
Here.
Mr. Delahanty is present. Mrs. DeFlorio.
Here.
Mrs. DeFlorio is present. Mr. Dondorfer.
Here.
Mr. Dondorfer is present. Mr. Felder.
Hospitals to expand bed capacity by 25% to deal with the COVID-19.
Mr. Felder. Mr.
Here.
Flagler Mitchell. Oh, Mr. Felder is present. Mr. Flagler Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Flagler Mitchell is present. Ms. Hassman.
Here.
Ms. Hassman is present. Mr. Hebert.
Here.
Mr. Hebert is present. Mr. Keofat-Lassie.
Here.
Mr. Keofat-Lassie is present. Ms. Lamar.
Here.
Ms. Lamar is present. Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee. Mr. Mafucci.
Here.
Mr. Mafucci is present. Mr. Marianetti.
Here.
Mr. Marianetti is present. Mr. Morelle.
Here.
Mr. Morelle is present. Ms. Roman.
Here.
Ms. Roman is present. Ms. Smith.
Here.
Smith is present. Ms. Taylor.
Here.
Ms. Taylor is present. Mr. Turp.
Here.
Mr. Turp is present. Mr. Wilcox.
Here.
Mr. Wilcox is present. Mr. Wilt.
Here.
Mr. Wilt is present. Mr. Udelson.
Here.
Mr. Udelson is present. Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee is absent. We'll need to suspend the rules of the legislature for the purpose of prohibiting public in-person attendance in accordance with Executive Order 202.1, which was extended through January 1st, 2021 by Executive Order 202.79. You have a motion before you, which is moved by Legislator Brew and seconded by Legislator DeFlorio. This is a non-debatable motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Please join me in a moment of silent prayer. Please stand as Legislator Keofat-Lassie will now lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Legislator.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America,
and
to the republic for which it stands,
one
one nation,
under
God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Legislator. Call this special meeting of the Legislature pursuant to the authority vested in me as President of the Monroe County Legislature by Section C2-9C1 of the County Charter and Section 545-5 of the Rules of the Legislature of the County of Monroe. This meeting has been closed to the public, and all legislators are participating via teleconference in accordance with Executive Order 202.1 and 202.79. In keeping with the Legislature's tradition of openness, the meeting is being live streamed on the YouTube through the Legislature's official channel. Everyone participating via video or teleconference will please mute their device, except to obtain the floor or cast a vote. If seeking to obtain the floor, please simply state your name and wait for me to call on you before proceeding with your question or statement. The clerk will read the full title of each resolution and referral to avoid any confusion as to which item is before the Legislature. All votes will be held via voice vote unless a roll call is requested. Tonight we consider 2021 capital budget and the 2021 tax levy. We will then take up the remaining items from the December 8th agenda that were not passed since they were contingent upon the adoption of the 2021 budget. Following the consideration of those matters, we will consider a motion to convene a committee of the whole. In convening the committee of the whole, we will also discharge those items currently referred to the committee and commit them to the committee of the whole. All legislators will be members of the committee of the whole and able to participate in debate and vote on items regardless of their respective committee assignments or which committees the referral was initially assigned. The committee of the whole will be governed by the same rules of the Legislature that govern committee meetings, and the votes taken are equivalent to those taken in committee. Meeting items passed by the committee of the whole will be considered for final approval or appropriate action at the next regularly scheduled meeting of the Legislature. We will now hold the public forum. Mr. Clerk.
There are 8 emails that were sent for public comment that were meant to be read at previous meetings. The legislators were notified that these emails were not read at previous meetings because they were intercepted by a spam filter. These public comments have been distributed to all the legislators, but also be read at tonight's public forum. Our first public comment comes from David Stevenson. First, schools are not super spreaders. According to an article by The Atlantic, do not allow the governor and the county executive and health commissioner who are aiding and abetting him to close schools. Yes, we do not believe the county executive and county commissioner when they say they are opposed to closing schools and obey the governor's every order on the issue. We need greater transparency in the statistics reported by Monroe County Department of Health. The daily update should indicate how many hospitalizations are the result of people at the hospital for reasons other than COVID-19, such as elective surgery, and how many are asymptomatic or have mild symptoms. The perception is hospitalizations represent COVID-19 cases that are serious, not mild or asymptomatic. Department of Health should not be inciting panic through deceiving people with their statistics. County Executive Bello and County Commissioner Dr. Mike Mendoza should not be receiving overtime pay when they implement the governor's orders for closing schools, businesses, and churches. They should not be paid overtime for destroying society. Further, their salary and overtime pay should be a matter of public record. Further, we request that the Monroe County Legislature defang the Department of Health, defund or remove all authority for all COVID enforcement activities, citations, and fines by the Department of Health against schools, businesses, and churches. The Erie County Comptroller defang their Department of Public Health by allowing those fined to pay their fines over 15 to 100 years. Lastly, the rising hospitalizations indicate that the Department of Health should get back to practicing medicine and spend less time on cheerleading for masks and social distancing. By practicing medicine, I mean the Health Commissioner should lead efforts to find existing or new medicines that are effective at keeping people out of the hospital. The best that Mendoza do is supportive care, such as anti-nausea medications and aspirin, Tylenol, and ibuprofen for reducing fever, aches, and pains. His best won't do. Reduced hospitalization should be one metric by which we judge the health commissioner's competency and effectiveness. Our next email comes from Lindsay Royston. First, I wanted to say thank you to my county legislator, Brian Marianetti, the Monroe County Legislature, Executive Adam Bell, as well as Commissioner Dr. Mendoza for your time and efforts throughout this very unusual year. As we look to 2021, it is far past time that every single individual in this legislative body take immediate personal responsibility to effect change. There's been zero accountability within Monroe County on a number of issues, despite intense public outcry. Regardless of what the media is parroting, you all know there's immediate and dire situations that must be addressed now. Executive Bello and Dr. Mendoza, the public demands that you both, in conjunction with the legislature, address the absolute abhorrent situations facing nursing home residents and their family members. These men and women have been stripped of their freedom, dignity, and support. You have locked them in isolation for 8 months, and COVID is still raging within long-term care facilities. Other counties did not accept COVID-positive patients. Why did we? The state has been said that under intense scrutiny regarding the data on nursing home deaths. Where's Monroe County data? NBC filmed a short piece right here in Rochester that went national, yet every single one of you have remained silent. Please advocate for long-term care residents to be given an essential family caregiver immediately. Also, where are the pedophiles and other criminals that were released in Monroe County and given free hotels and cash cars? Are they still free while our veterans rot alone? Dr. Mendoza, we demand for you to be transparent on the lobbying efforts of New York State Association of County Health Officials, of which you are a board member, as well as the health systems for which you work. With 2 different COVID vaccines being trialed here in Rochester, it is worrisome that a U of R grad, Assemblymember Rosenthal, has introduced legislation to mandate COVID vaccination for some populations. Do you support COVID vaccine mandates? How will you protect informed consent and parental rights in regard to COVID vaccines? Executive Bello, Erie County has, since the beginning of the pandemic, released reports on the amount of money that the county has billed the federal government for COVID-related overtime paid to high-ranking officials such as their health commissioner. Why has this report not been generated from Monroe County? Please instruct Jennifer Cesario, controller, or other pertinent staff to compile this data and release immediately. How much money is left from our CARES Act money and where did it go? Months ago, hundreds of members from the community put up a billboard that read, "Flatten the curves," with arrows showing increasing in suicide. Our next email is from Amy Cassini. Imagine not being able to see your loved ones during the last years, months, days of your life. Imagine being confused as to why and living alone in fear. Imagine losing a loved one with knowing the last 9 months of their life was not full of living at all, but rather loneliness, isolation, and neglect. Think about how terrified all of these people must feel, please. Put yourself in their shoes. We understand why restrictions are in place during this pandemic. However, protocols and procedures need to change. We need to adapt to these trying times. For example, we need family members to be able to care for their loved ones, just as essential medical professionals do. And there's no reason that we need to wait this long to see something happen. We are failing our seniors, and you have the power to make this change. Please consider the amount us to take the change that could save the people just built in our communities. Our next email is from Allison Origo. I am a salon owner on the edge of this dreaded orange zone. I am asking for your voice in helping us reopen in this critical time. As the holiday season approaches, my stylist and I cannot wait to financially start digging ourselves out of the massive hole we were put in last spring. Our holiday season brings us double, if not triple, the income we normally survive on. Yes, survive. We are being smothered, barely able to breathe once again. We have had 5,000 wonderful clients visit our establishment since opening day of June 1st, 2020. Not one COVID case, not one transmission, contract trace, nor interference. We go above and beyond all safety measures and can assure everyone's health is held at our highest regard. Salons were stage 2 opening, but the governor has shut us down before releases in stage 3 or 4. It not only makes 0 sense, but he is causing my stylist to rent temporary chairs in other salons, which is terrifying to a business owner, or worse, go inside people's homes for their appointments. We know transmission is happening in homes, 70% to be exact, as stated by our governor. This seems reckless and unjustified. My building does not have COVID, so I send my employees 0.05 miles down the road to work, pay someone else rent while I still have tons of bills pouring in. Not to mention that my facility is controlled and safe for them while someone else's may not be. The zone change happening tomorrow, as Duffy stated. I ask that you please do whatever you can to lift this ridiculously strict, unneeded enforcement. It would be a Christmas miracle for our industry, as there is no financial help available either. Our next email is from Kim Brown. There is a dire need to allow at least one person from a resident's family to be let in to give essential care to that loved one. We have not been able to control the deadly outbreak of COVID-19 in our nursing homes. So to further punish our elders, they are now dying from loneliness, neglect, and isolation. The workers are just not able to do their jobs and take on the role of family for this declining, fragile group of people. My mom has declined to the point of being in hospice now. We have lost time with her that we cannot get back at the end of her life. So many people were never able to hug or say I love you one last time. An essential caregiver would have the same COVID-19 tests that staff have and be responsible for social distancing. An essential caregiver would be able to assist staff in the care of their loved ones, which I'm sure staff would welcome. Staff at our nursing home and long-term care facilities are overworked, underpaid, and often understaffed, which leads to neglect and burnout. Please commit to allowing residents at long-term care facilities to have an essential caregiver and to give the human touch and much-needed attention that our declining elders need desperately. I stood in my mom's window calling her name with no reply. Her condition has declined so much that she doesn't even know I'm there anymore. Her 2 main senses left are taste and touch. She may not know I'm there. She may know I'm there if I can touch her. Thank you for your time. Our next email is from Matthew Gold. I'm emailing you today to express my opposition to the proposed Monroe County budget, specifically the amounts allocated to the Sheriff's Department. More than half of the budget, over $83 million, is allocated to the jail, yet the jail's population has been halved for the past year. Maintaining the same budget for 2020 and 2021 for the jail is thus a mistake and does not represent the desperately needed shift away from our culture of mass incarceration. Additionally, it is cruel and inhumane to prevent incarcerated people from being able to speak to family members and loved ones because they are poor. And that is precisely what the existing fees charged for phone calls in the jail do. This is especially bad given the current pandemic, which has outright eliminated most in-person visits. Jail phone calls should be free for all people incarcerated or held at the Monroe County Jail. Next email is from Avis Reese. Hello. I was disheartened to learn that the Sheriff's Department is sitting on over $1 million in profits from jail calls. To excessively profit from a service that adds financial strain on families and inmates is unacceptable, especially in the midst of a pandemic. Therefore, I urge you all to vote to use the money from the slush fund to make jail calls free for inmates and their families. Furthermore, the overall budget for the Sheriff's Department needs to be decreased. The proposed budget does not reflect the decreased jail population, but the Jail Bureau receives over 50% of the budget. This department is overfunded. Please stop wasting our money. Fund the community. Next email is from Betty Wolfanger. I'm dismayed to see the county has maintained the $158 million sheriff's budget despite jail populations being halved in 2020. This is ludicrous and fiscally irresponsible. There's no other segment of the budget in which we would allow an agency to keep all of its money while doing half the work. Like any other agency, the Sheriff's Department exists to serve the people and should be funded in a fair and appropriate manner in relationship to the services provided. At a time when we are being hit with a debilitating economic crisis and tragic rates of unemployment, this budget is an affront to common sense, the fiscal health of Monroe County, and the well-being of its residents. That concludes our public forum.
We will now proceed with the consideration of motions, resolutions, and notices. Will the clerk read the next item on the agenda, please?
Item number 1, referral 20-0435, authorized bond resolutions and appropriation transfers for the 2021 Monroe County capital budget.
Mr. President, this is Legislator Brew.
Yes, Legislator Brew, you have the floor.
I would like to move that we move items 1 through 34 as a whole, with the exception of item numbers 4, 5, 7, 8, and 33.
Do you have a second?
Do you have a second?
I second it.
I'll second that too.
I second it.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we'll proceed with item number 4, if I'm correct.
Correct. Yeah, let me just get our papers in order here. Just one moment. All right. Item number 4, authorizing intermunicipal agreement with the City of Rochester for a firearms instructor.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Legislator Boyce, seconded by Legislators Ansello and Delahanty. Is there any
Mr.
discussion?
President, Legislator Dondorfer,
Yes, Legislator Dondorfer, you have the floor.
I would just like to declare my interest that I am a firearms instructor with the Rochester Police Department.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next, item 5.
Item number 5, authorizing intermunicipal agreements with 10 municipalities in Monroe County for Stop DWI law enforcement program.
Move it, Mr. President.
By Legislator Boyce, seconded by Legislators Ansello and Delahanty. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next, item 7.
Item 7, authorizing contract with the University of Rochester Pulmonary Group for Monroe County Department of Public Health Tuberculosis Control Program.
Move it, Mr. President.
By Legislator Smith, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion?
President,
Legislator Hasman.
Legislator Hasman, I just want to declare my interest. I work for the University of Rochester Medical Center.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next, item 8.
Item number 8, authorizing contract with University of Rochester for support of forensic pathology fellowship program at Monroe County Office of Medical Examiner.
Move it, Mr. President.
By Legislator Smith, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion?
Legislator Hasman.
Legislator Hasman.
Want to
Go ahead.
I work for the University of Rochester Medical Center.
Very good, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries.
Mr. President, this is Legislator Brew, if I may.
Yes, Legislator Brew.
Yes, I misspoke, and I would also request that we take item number 15 out of the moving of the whole of the 1 through 34 and take that as a separate item in itself. If you could do that item next, please, Mr. President.
Got it, 15.
Any objections? Seeing none. Yeah, I know. Item number 15, referral 20-0367, authorizing contracts for provision of mental health, developmental disabilities, and alcoholism and substance abuse services in 2021 for the Monroe County Office of Mental Health.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second. By Legislator Smith, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 33, authorizing contract with St. John Fisher College for provision of county historian services.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
I second it.
Moved by Legislator Delahanty, seconded by Legislator Hebert, and I think there was one other second.
Second it, Legislator Flagler Mitchell.
It's also seconded by Legislator Flagler Mitchell. Is there any discussion on item number 33?
Legislator Barroth.
Yes, Legislator Barrow.
Thank you, sir. Through you to the administration, just a quick question. This is a contract with St. John Fisher College, and the county historian, therefore, is not an employee of Monroe County. Is that correct, through the chair, through the president?
Can anybody on the administration answer that question?
Hi, this is Colleen Anderson from Purchasing through the president. That is correct. Dr. Carolyn Vaca, who is the current historian, is a professor, the head of the history department at St. John Fisher.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, I believe 35, correct?
Yeah. Item number 35, referral 20-0396, authorizing contract with Capital Markets Advisors LLC for independent registered municipal advisor services on behalf of Monroe County.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Legislator Delahanty, seconded by Legislator Hebert. Is there any discussion?
Legislator Barroth.
Yes, Legislator.
Thank you, sir. Through you to the administration, I know that we are allowed to expend with this contract about a bill about $10,000 per year. Is that approximately how much we spent in past years, or is that maximum through the president?
Mr. President, Robert Franklin, Monroe County Finance. That is the maximum, Mr. President. In the past, the county has spent typically zero, but there have been a couple years where it's been $2,000 to $4,000.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Item carries. 36.
Item number 36, motion to discharge, convene, and commit, providing that files numbers 200418 through 20-0431 and 20-0437 be discharged from the Agenda Charter, Human Services, Intergovernmental Relations, Environment and Public Works, and Ways and Means Committees, providing that the Legislature convene a committee of the whole, providing that files numbers 20-0418 through 20-0431 and 20-0437 be committed to the committee of the whole.
By Legislator Brew,
Second.
second
Move it.
second by Legislator Dondorfer. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Carries. This time, we'll recess the December 15, 2020 special meeting of the Monroe County Legislature, and we will convene the Committee of the Whole. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Alcoffer.
Here.
Mr. Alcoffer is present. Mr. Ansello.
Here.
Mr. Ansello is present. Ms. Barnhart.
Here.
Ms. Barnhart is present. Mr. Baroth.
Here.
Mr. Baroth is present. Mr. Baines.
Here.
Mr. Baines is present. Ms. Boyce.
Here.
Ms. Boyce is present. Mr. Brew.
Here.
Mr. Brew is present. President Carbone.
Here.
President Carbone is present. Mr. Colby.
Here.
Mr. Colby is present. Mr. Delahanty.
Here.
Mr. Delahanty is present. Mrs. DeFlorio.
Here.
Mr. DeFlorio is present. Mr. Dondorfer.
Here.
Mr. Dondorfer is present. Mr. Felder. Mr. Felder.
Here.
Mr. Felder is present. Mr. Flagler Mitchell.
Here.
Mr. Flagler Mitchell is present. Ms. Hassman.
Here.
Ms. Hassman is present. Mr. Hebert.
Here.
Mr. Hebert is present. Mr. Keofet Lassie.
Here.
Mr. Keofet Lassie is present. Ms. Lamar.
Here.
Ms. Lamar is present. Mr. Lee. Mr. Mafucci.
Here.
Mr.
Mr.
Mafucci
Lee
is
is here.
present. Mr. Lee is present. Mr. Marianetti.
Here.
Mr. Marianetti is present. Mr. Morelle.
Here.
Mr. Morelle is present. Ms. Roman.
Here.
Ms. Roman is present. Ms. Smith.
Here.
Smith is present. Ms. Taylor.
Here.
Ms. Taylor is present. Mr. Turp.
Here.
Mr. Turp is present. Mr. Wilcox.
Here.
Mr. Wilcox is present. Mr. Wilt.
Here.
Mr. Wilt is present. Mr. Udelson.
Here.
Mr. Udelson is present.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. You have the minutes from the October 27, 2020 meeting of the Committee of the Whole before you. They will stand approved until the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. We will now hold the public forum. Mr. Clerk.
No one is registered to address the Committee of the Whole, nor were any written comments submitted.
We will now proceed with new business. Will the clerk read the next item on the agenda?
Item number 1, referral 20-0418, enacting a local law requiring pharmacies to provide notice of the availability of naloxone.
Move it, Mr. President.
By Legislator Smith, seconded by Legislator Wilcox. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President, Legislator Smith?
Yes.
I
Go
just
ahead,
want to
Legislator Smith.
thank you. I'd like to make some brief remarks about this local law. I just want to thank Legislator Justin Wilcox for giving me the opportunity to work with him on this legislation. This local law has the potential to save the lives of our friends, families, and neighbors right here in Monroe County. It's no secret that the abuse and misuse of opioids is a public health crisis, and so many residents are impacted by this. Although there are so many people impacted by the opioid epidemic, there is still a stigma attached to this addiction. This legislation takes the steps to eliminate the stigma and removing the barriers to treatment. While naloxone has been available at pharmacies for a while now, there's been no formal requirement to make sure that those who are prescribed opioids are aware of this fact. The local law will ensure that pharmacies are providing notice that opioid antagonists like Narcan, are available without a prescription whenever an individual refills, renews, or first fills an opioid prescription. Legislator Wilcox and I have worked with the pharmacies, the county public health department, and the county law department to ensure that this local law is feasible, but more importantly, that it will help as many people as possible. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Legislator Smith. Any further discussion?
Mr. President?
Yes, Legislator Ernest Flagler Mitchell.
Yes, I just want to send my thanks to Legislator Smith and Legislator Wilcox, where opioid had hit our family very hard. I am appreciative to see that there's a new local law in place that would allow us to know when we see certain things come into the community. And I truly thank you both for working together in a bipartisan way to make this happen. And that's what legislation is about. So I thank both Legislator Smith and Legislator Wilcox for their working together on behalf of this bill. Thank you.
I agree. Any further discussion?
Mr. President, this is Legislator Wilcox.
Legislator Wilcox, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to thank my colleague, Legislator Smith, for her diligence and taking a serious look at this legislation, as did a number of my colleagues, our colleagues, during the first review of this bill. A number of very good questions were asked. We went back, looked at the legislation, and made some improvements. And I will say, because of those questions and because of Legislator Smith, this is a better piece of legislation than the one I initially introduced. So I want to thank you. Working collaboratively, working on a bipartisan basis, this is a better piece of legislation because of that. And I'd like to second Legislator Flagler's comment that this is how we should do it here in Monroe County. Collaborate, work together, and produce better outcomes in legislation. So thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Good. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 2, referral 20-0419, confirmation of appointments to the Monroe County Board of Ethics.
Do I have somebody that'll move this?
Move it, Mr. President. I move it.
Moved by Ernest Flagler Mitchell. Who else?
Legislator Morelle moving.
Legislator Morelle. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by, was that Legislator Hasman?
Barnhart.
Legislator Barnhart? Okay, good. So moved by Flagler Mitchell and Morelle, seconded by Barnhart. Is there any discussion?
Mr. President.
This is
President?
tough on the Zoom. Who was that?
Legislator Felder.
Legislator Felder, go ahead.
I move to table this motion. I don't like at least one of the appointments in here. I think it's improper to have the county human resources director on this committee, particularly since she's the one who authorized the illegal removal of my stipend. So I object to this appointment, and I'd like to table this until we can have a further discussion on it.
Legislator. Mr. President, Jeff McCann.
Yes, Mr. McCann?
I would, through you, Mr. President, I would just like to point out that we're required to have one county employee serve on the ethics board.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion to table. Do I have a second for that motion?
Second.
Who was that?
Legislator Flagler Mitchell.
Legislator Flagler Mitchell, was that you that seconded that?
Yep, I second it.
Legislator Barnhart, before you moved to table, I just had a couple questions for the administration. Can I ask those?
Well, there's no discussion on a tabling motion.
That's fine.
So we go to roll call?
On the motion to table, Mr. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Brew votes yes. Mr. Felder?
Yes.
Mr. Felder votes yes. Mr. Flagler Mitchell.
Yes.
Mr. Flagler Mitchell votes yes. Mr. Alcoffer.
Yes.
Mr. Alcoffer votes yes. Mr. Ansello.
Yes.
Mr. Ansello votes yes. Ms. Barnhart.
Yes.
Ms. Barnhart votes yes. Mr. Baroth.
No.
Baroth votes no. Mr. Baines.
No.
Mr. Baines votes no. Ms. Boyce.
Yes.
Ms. Boyce votes yes. Mr. Colby.
Yes.
Mr. Colby votes yes. Mr. Delahanty.
Yes.
Mr. Delahanty votes yes. Ms. DeFlorio.
Yes.
Mrs. DeFlorio votes yes. Mr. Dondorfer.
Yes.
Mr. Dondorfer votes yes. Ms. Hassman.
No.
Ms. Hassman votes no. Mr. Hebert.
Yes.
Mr. Hebert votes yes. Mr. Keofat-Lassie.
Yes.
Mr. Keofat-Lassie votes yes. Ms. Lamar.
Yes.
Ms. Lamar votes yes. Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Lee votes yes. Mr. Mafucci.
No.
Mr. Mafucci votes no. Mr. Marianetti.
Yes.
Mr. Marianetti votes yes. Mr. Morelle.
No.
Mr. Morelle votes no. Ms. Roman.
No.
Ms. Roman votes no. Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Smith votes yes. Ms. Taylor.
Yes.
Ms. Taylor votes yes. Mr. Terp.
Yes.
Mr. Terp votes yes. Mr. Wilcox.
No.
Mr. Wilcox votes no. Mr. Wilt.
Yes.
Mr. Wilt votes yes. Mr. Udelson.
No.
Mr. Udelson votes no. President Carbone.
Yes.
President Carbone votes yes. 21 to 8. Motion to table is adopted. Item number 3, referral 20-0420, confirmation of reappointments to the Monroe County Board of Health.
Move it, Mr. President.
Moved by Legislator Taylor, seconded by Legislator Smith. Is there any discussion?
Legislator DeFlorio.
Yes, Legislator DeFlorio.
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration, can somebody please give a brief overview of the duties and responsibilities of this board?
Through you, Mr. President, I believe we have Dr. Velez de Brown on the phone.
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Through the chair, the Board of Health serves as in an advisory capacity to the Commissioner of Health and our department, and they are the enforcement body that at times does need to enforce such actions as a fine if someone breaks certain environmental health laws. If a business, for example, breaks certain public health law.
So through the chair to the administration, as a follow-up, when you say the enforcement, do they set the fines? What do you mean by enforcement, I guess, through the chair?
Through the chair, if, for example, a corner store sells tobacco to a minor that breaks a public health law, there is a hearing that takes place, and if that hearing is done independently, it's not done within our department. But once the results of that hearing are finalized, it is the Board of Health that ultimately votes to enforce the fines that are already preset in other public health law.
Okay, thank you. Through the chair to the administration, how often did the Board of Health meet in 2020?
Give me one moment. I do apologize. Through the chair, I was just confirming once we switched to the Zoom style of meeting. The Board of Health met 9 times this year.
Thank you. And through the chair, does the Board of Health have any advisory capacity or involvement with the health department in terms of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Through the chair, no, the guidance that we enforce comes through the State Department of Health.
So there's no interaction in terms of any of the decision making with this body.
Through the chair, that is correct.
Thank you. And through the chair, with the appointments that we would be making with this motion, will this make a full complement of the members? I mean, will the members be full? Will the board be full at this point?
Through the chair, yes, it will.
Thank you. And through the chair, where on the county website can one find information about this board?
That I am, through the chair, I am not certain of the answer to that question. I will find that out and have it sent to the county legislature.
Thank you. And then one last question through the chair. Could you also provide us with a list of the current members, the bylaws of this board, as well as where, if the meeting minutes are on the website, if not, where we can find the meeting minutes, and any other sort of relevant information with regard to the board?
Through the chair, yes.
Thank you. And I'm done. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yes, Legislator Boyce. A follow-up question to Dr. Melendez. Since you mentioned the idea with regards to the tobacco enforcement at the corner stores and the such with regards to minors, can you give us any data, probably not available tonight, but with regards to how many of those hearings have been made and how many corner stores have been fined over the past year?
Through the chair, we've had no such infractions this year.
Really? Well, I can give you some sites that you might want to check out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 4, referral 20-0421, authorized contracts with Kimberly Ganley, Paul DeStefano, William Hawkins, and any other qualified individual providing municipal representative services for the preschool special education program.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second. Moved by Legislator Smith, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion?
Legislator Hebert.
Go ahead, Legislator Hebert. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the administration, am I correct in stating these 3 individuals will be sitting in on CPSE meetings on behalf of the county to assure all IEPs are being fulfilled and that services granted and delivered are appropriate for the child and the identified needs?
Through you, Mr. President, we have Roxana Inshow available.
Insco.
Through the chair, this is Roxana Insco. That is correct.
Thank you, Ms. Insco. And through you, Mr. President, to the administration, could you please specify to some degree what the qualifications are to be required? I'm sorry, let me start again. What qualifications are required to be considered for these positions?
Through the chair, the people in this position need to have an understanding of preschool special education in general. The folks that we have selected all have previous experiences working in preschool special education. 2 of them are school psychologists and were previously CPSE chairs. And the third was a pupil coordinator in school districts and previously a speech pathologist as well.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. President, to the administration, how many school districts and schools have to be covered by these 3 individuals?
Through the chair, that is all of the school districts in Monroe County. So I believe 23 of them.
And through you, Mr. President, to the administration, are these meetings held on a school district basis or on an individual school basis?
Through the chair, I'm sorry, can you rephrase the question?
Certainly. Are the meetings that these 3 people attend held by school district, or are individual meetings held for individual schools within that district?
I see. Through the chair, they're by school district.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. President, to the administration, how many students in total are covered throughout the county by these district meetings?
Through the chair, if you give me just a moment, I can give you the exact number, but it is approximately 3,000 children.
The approximation is fine. Thank you. Through you, Mr. President, will the legislature be notified if additional individuals are chosen to fulfill or perform these duties?
Through the chair, we certainly could. Our request was to be able to continue to fill the positions as needed and as required. There are currently 3 people in this position. It is ideal to have a 4th that can kind of act as backup when people are on vacations or out for illness. These are typically folks who are retired and working part-time. And so when someone kind of fits that description, it would be very helpful to be able to bring them on. But we can certainly notify this group when that happens.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. President, it is perfectly fine with me that you notify us after you've already got them working. That's fine. I just would like to know if and when that happens. One last question, if I may, through you, Mr. President, of the administration, do these individuals work with the parents of the children directly?
Through the chair, they're a member of the committee that includes the parents. So yes.
Thank you. I yield the floor, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr.
Pardon?
President.
Yes,
Through
Legislator
you,
Flagler.
Administration. Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the administration. Does these 3 individuals deal with the Rochester City School District? Or?
Through the chair, yes, they do.
Okay, as well as, thank you. And through you to the administration, how about the Gates School District, Henrietta School District, and Greece School District?
Through the chair, yes, all of those districts you named.
And that amount to how many students do you, Mr. President, to the administration?
Through the chair, it is, as I stated, approximately 3,000, and I can get that exact number shortly.
Thank you. Thank you. And can you describe real quick what it is that these 3 individuals will be doing? Through the chair, to you, administration.
Through the chair, each of these individuals act as a voting member of the CPSE team. So they help the team to decide appropriate services for children to make sure that they're fiscally appropriate, meet educational needs, and are least restrictive.
Thank you. You did I just hear you say CPS team? Through you, Mr. President, the administration?
Through the chair, no, CPSE, I apologize for the acronym. It's the Committee on Preschool Special Education. So that's made up of the school district, the municipal representative, parents, providers, anyone involved in the children's and the child's needs.
Thank you. And just through you to the administration, how much is this contract? Or these human service jobs? Through you to the administration?
Through the chair, the total is 85,000, divided among the three individuals. They don't attend every single meeting, but attend meetings where they're needed.
Thank you. And through you to the administration, was this a bid process, RFP?
Through the chair, that's correct.
And this through you to the administration, do we have any, what is our racial mix-up of this organization? Is there NWBE certified, or are they NWBE or WBE, MWBE certified?
Through the chair, the three individuals are not. They were the three individuals that responded. And so no one with that certification responded.
Thank you. Just through you to the administration. And did we advertise it? Where did we advertise this at? Just through you to the administration.
Through the chair, it was posted per purchasing protocols.
So through you to the administration, the old purchasing protocols.
Correct.
Mr. President, this is Jeff McCann. Individuals do not receive MWBE certification.
So just through you to the administration, there's three individuals. And so is it a company, or these individuals is independent of each other?
Through you, Mr. President, these are three individuals who are separate and independent, who the county is contracting with individually.
Thank you. And just through you to the administration, you couldn't find not a single minority. Is there, let me ask this before I even jump to conclusion. Are there any minorities in that group through you to the administration?
Through you, Mr. President, I believe Ms. Incho said that these individuals are not, none of these individuals are a minority. And again, these were posted and advertised per the typical methods that we do that.
Yeah, thank you. And I know we working on trying to change that. Just for me, there's no real representation of all the children that will be served, especially when decisions are being made about special education and who should receive certain services. I really would have loved to see that, we had a diverse makeup, because cultural differences and different areas where kids have been brought up is very critical when we're talking about special ed. I remember there was a time where my son was misdiagnosed for special ed, and a lot of that is because of the cultural differences. For me, I cannot vote for this amendment because it seemed like the administration went far enough to make sure that everybody was represented. So, I will be voting against this amendment. Thank you.
Any further discussion on this one?
Yes, Mr. President, Legislator Boyce, to the administration, are any of the people that we're considering through this referral bilingual?
Through the chair, it was not a requirement of the bid, so I am not so I'm not certain.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I guess we'll go to a roll call vote. Jack?
Mr. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Brew votes yes. Mr. Felder?
No.
Mr. Felder votes no. Mr. Flagler Mitchell?
No.
Mr. Flagler Mitchell votes no. Mr. Alcoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Alcoffer votes yes. Mr. Ansello?
Yes.
Mr. Ansello votes yes. Ms. Barnhart?
Yes.
Ms. Barnhart votes yes. Mr. Baroth?
Yes.
Mr. Baroth votes yes. Mr. Baines?
Sorry, yes.
Mr. Baines votes yes. Ms. Boyce?
No.
Ms. Boyce votes no. Mr. Colby?
Yes.
Mr. Colby votes yes. Mr. Delahanty?
Yes.
Mr. Delahanty votes yes. Mr. DeFlorio?
Yes.
Mr. DeFlorio votes yes. Mr. Dondorfer?
Yes.
Mr. Dondorfer votes yes. Ms. Hassman?
Yes.
Ms. Hassman votes yes. Mr. Hebert?
Yes.
Mr. Hebert votes yes. Mr. Keofet-Lassie? Excuse me, Mr. Keofet-Lassie?
No.
Mr. Keofet-Lassie votes no. Ms. Lamar?
No.
Ms. Lamar votes no. Mr. Lee?
No.
Mr. Lee votes no. Mr. Mafucci?
Yes.
Mr. Mafucci votes yes. Mr. Marianetti?
Yes.
Mr. Marianetti votes yes. Mr. Morelle?
Yes.
Mr. Morelle votes yes. Ms. Roman?
Yes.
Ms. Roman votes yes. Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Smith votes yes. Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor votes yes. Mr. Turp?
Yes.
Mr. Turp votes yes. Mr. Wilcox?
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox votes yes. Mr. Wilt?
Yes.
Mr. Wilt votes yes. Mr. Udelson?
Yes.
Mr. Udelson votes yes. President Carbone?
Yes.
Mr. President Carbone votes yes. 23-6. Referral passes. Item number 5, referral 20-0422, authorize a contract with Affinity Rehabilitation LLP to provide nursing services from Monroe County Department of Public Health Early Intervention Program.
Move it, Mr. President.
By
Second.
Legislator Smith, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion on this one?
Legislator Smith.
Go ahead, Legislator Smith.
Through the president, if we could get a brief description from the administration on what the development monitoring program is about.
Through you, Mr. President, Ms. Insko is available to answer this.
Through the chair, the developmental monitoring program is another leg of the early intervention program. So for children who don't quite meet the eligibility for early intervention, but their parents are still concerned about their risk of developmental delay, this is a support program for those families.
Thank you. Another follow-up question through the president. How was Affinity Rehabilitation LLP chosen?
Through the chair, there was an RFP that was issued and the respondents were rated and Affinity was found to be the best rated respondent.
Thank you. One other question through the president. Are these services going to be provided remotely?
Through the chair, they will partially be remote as most of it is phone work. There will be some in-office work, but mostly remote.
Is she done? Any further discussion? Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Come here.
Any opposed?
Sorry.
Item carries. Next item. That's okay.
Item number 6, referral 20-0423, acceptance of a grant from Health Research Inc. for the epidemiological and laboratory capacity COVID-19 enhanced detection program.
Moved by Legislator Smith.
Second.
Seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Number 7.
Item number 7, referral 20-0424, authorize intermunicipal agreements with other counties for services provided by the Monroe County Office of the Medical Examiner.
Move it, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Legislator Ansello, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. 8.
Item number 8, referral 20-0425, amend resolution 278 of 2012 to extend the contract with Waste Management of New York LLC for operation and maintenance of the Monroe County Recycling Center and curbside recycling program.
Move it, Mr. President.
Moved by Legislator Dondorfer, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion on this item?
Legislator Barworth?
Go ahead, Legislator Barworth.
Thank you. Through you to the administration, do we have an estimate on how much anticipated revenue this will generate in 2021?
Mr. President, we have Mike Garland or Bill Daly available for this. Mr. President, I'm not sure if they have their phones muted or not, but they are on the call.
Mr. Garland, can you answer that question?
If someone's participating by phone and you're muted, press *6 on your phone to unmute yourself.
*6 to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I beg your pardon. This is Mike Garland from Environmental Services. This is replacing equipment that's over 30 years old, and it'll make the process far more reliable and efficient. We don't have estimates on, additional volumes that we will capture as a result of the improvement and replacement of this equipment. But again, it's beyond its useful life. It will increase throughput, reliability. It will remove contamination that would otherwise be difficult to remove presently. And there will be an investment of $3.2 million made by Waste Management to replace this equipment.
Okay, so through the President to the administration, essentially leaving aside market conditions, so prices go up and they go down, leaving aside that, this should in fact increase the profits we would actually receive. Is that correct through the President?
Through the President, would you please repeat the question?
Yeah, after you said increase, it was hard to understand what you said. Increase what?
Oh, increase the revenues that this contract will end up generating. Leaving aside market forces, just because we're more efficient, greater throughput, I would assume we would be delivering more product to be recycled or whatever.
Through you, Mr. President, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Legislator Hebert.
Go ahead, Legislator Hebert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the administration, the referral amends Resolution 278 of 2012, and I read that, so I have a couple of questions. Is there any change? Are there any changes being made to this contract as far as reimbursement or payments to Monroe County from Waste Management?
Through you, Mr. President, no. The only term that is changing is the extending the contract itself.
Okay, through you, Mr. President, to the administration, how is Waste Management affording a $3.2 million investment to be accomplished through this extension?
Through you, Mr. President, really a business decision by Waste Management making this investment. They feel that through the extension of this contract, they will be able to recoup that cost by making their process more efficient.
Thank you. And through you, Mr. President, to the administration, who owns the upgrade that's being the $3.2 million upgrade once it's completed?
Through you, Mr. President, any upgrades made, including the single stream upgrade that they made previously under this contract and will make under this extension will be the property of Monroe County.
Thank you. Final question through you, Mr. President, to the administration. Who owns, as I read this contract, it's a waste management issue that there is currently a reduced demand for recyclables, largely due to Chinese restrictions on purity. Do they continue to own that problem?
Through you, Mr. President, the county is, insulated really from the downturn in the revenues that were subject to the downturn in the economy and the Chinese market. However, we're seeing the value of those commodities that are processed at the recycling center on the increase. There's demand for more materials associated with online ordering. The market is developing here in North America, and there's more demand for recycled content in the products manufactured in North America. So the good news is we're starting to see the value of the commodities processed beginning to increase.
Thank you. A follow-on question due to that response, Mr. President, to the administration. Have the prices or the values of the recyclables returned to the pre-China restriction? Go back.
Through you, Mr. President, the plastics have always retained a relatively high level. I think HDPE is above where it was at prior to high-density polyethylene. So in some cases, we've seen them exceed where they were at prior to the downfall in downturn in the market. But in most cases, it's still below the value that preceded, the Chinese restriction on recycled imports.
Understood. And thank you for the answers. I guess one other one came to mind through Mr. President, the administration. I remember the tour led of the facility several years ago. Have we, due to the changing demand for the recyclables, is there a large buildup in the number of big square or cubic bales that are created as a result of this process, or are we pretty much keeping the facility where it was when I saw it?
Through you, Mr. President, we were definitely experiencing that early on when there weren't the markets for that material, moving that, waste management, moving that product out. But because the demand is beginning to improve or has been improving, that has not been an issue on site. And with this capital project to replace the container line, to upgrade the container line, it will provide more space in the facility, which is a benefit. And those of you who are wondering what this may look like, I know the legislator referred to the tour that was given. We do have an educational video online that does show the container line in its present format. It's an educational video both in English and Spanish. It's easily accessible right through the homepage of the county website, and just click the recycling applet to the left, and you'll be brought to a screen that you can click the short 10-minute video on the recycling process itself.
Thank you, Mr. Garland. I would just like to commend you for your excellent work in this area the entire time I've been in the legislature, and I appreciate your preparation for these meetings, and I appreciate the work you do. That's my last question, Mr. President.
Mr. President, thank you very much.
Mr. President, Legislator Brew.
Go ahead, Legislator Brew.
Yes, through you to the administration, with the upgrade of the line, what would you see as a % increase in capacity of processing?
Through you, Mr. President, I don't have an estimate in terms of the increase in throughput, but having witnessed the process itself, which is not the most efficient, because basically you're hand sorting, the plastics out of the line itself. It will improve the quality, certainly on the back end, minimizing, contamination in the bales. where you get unwanted materials in plastic bales that have been sorted. But I will inquire about what they anticipate or estimate the increase in throughput in the container line and get back to you.
Yes. Thank you. And sort of a follow-up question to the administration. It would appear that there would be increased capacity in the recycling center. And I'm a huge fan of recycling. I fully supported the ban on plastic bags. We do host one of the 2 landfills out here in the town of Riga. And my question would be, does the county anticipate ramping up their efforts to bring awareness to recycling, given the fact, and maybe in high probability, that our recycling plant may have a greater degree of capacity to be able to process those recyclables?
Through you, Mr. President, yes, that is an area that we remain vigilant in educating the community and the residents on how to recycle right. This year we upgraded our magnet, and that's something that we heard from prior surveys that residents want information that's readily available in their homes that they can access on recycling night and garbage night to make sure that they are recycling properly. So that continues to be a prime focus for us. It will, I'm sure, be something that will be subject to our review under the Climate Action Plan as well, because diversion is something that is important as part of climate action, as well as our local solid waste management plan.
All right. Thank you very much. And I also, to the president, to the administration, I'd like to echo Legislator Siebert's commendable accolades to Director Garland. Mike and I serve on the Citizens Advisory Board out here. And since day one, since 5 years, I've had a great deal of respect for Mr. Garland, the way he runs his department, and especially for the degree of knowledge that he has for those items that you wouldn't typically expect a director to have. So thanks again to you, Mr. Garland, for a job which I feel is well done.
Thank you very much, through Mr. President.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. Number 9.
Item number 9, referral 20-0426, classification of action, determination of significance pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act for the sale of county-owned tax foreclosure property located at 2462 Sweden Walker Road, Clarkson, New York.
Move it, Mr. President.
By Legislator Dondorfer, seconded by Legislator Ansello. Is there any discussion?
Legislator Barra.
Yes, Legislator Barra.
Thank you, sir. To the administration, I do want to jump on the Mike Garland fan club wagon. I actually agree. I've been in the legislature for 10 years, and he's done an excellent job the whole way through. He is a very good public servant. But I have a question. In regards to the short environmental assessment form, part 1, questions, which ones are they? 10 and 11. Am I correct to assume that I'll take 10, for example, it asks, does this connect to an existing public-private water supply? And the answer is no. And then it says, if no, describe a method for providing potable water. Am I correct to assume then that it's just not an applicable thing? They're not going to add water supply there? Through the president.
This is Laura Smith, Chief Deputy County Attorney. This land is currently vacant.
Yes, but there's no plans currently to connect either to the potable water supply or to the wastewater utilities, correct? To the president?
There's no development plan for here that we're aware of.
Okay, so again, in terms of the form, it's just it's blank because it's not applicable.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Carries. Next item.
Item number 10, referral 20-0427, authorize the sale of county-owned tax foreclosure property located at 2462 Sweden Walker Road in the town of Clarkson.
Move it, Mr. President.
By Legislator Delahanty, seconded by Legislator Hebert. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 11, referral 20-0428, classification of action, determination of significance pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act for the sale of county-owned tax foreclosure property located at 90 Dunbar Road, Town of Parma, New York.
Move it, Mr.
Moved by
President.
Legislator Dondorfer, seconded by Legislator Ansello. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, 12.
Item number 12, referral 20-0429, authorizes the sale of county-owned tax foreclosure property located at 90 Dunbar Road in the Town of Parma.
Moved by
Move it,
Legislator
Mr. President.
Second.
Seconded by Legislator Hebert. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 13, referral 20-0430, acceptance of the election cybersecurity remediation program grant from the New York State Board of Elections for cybersecurity improvements to the Monroe County Board of Elections.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Moved by Legislator Delahanty, seconded by Legislator Hebert. Is there any discussion?
Legislator
Seeing none, all in favor-
DeFlorio?
I'm sorry, go ahead. Legislator DeFlorio?
Yes, through you to the administration. Can we get basically a description of the cybersecurity vulnerabilities that this referral will address?
Mr. President, Justin Moore is available to answer that question.
Thank you.
Through the chair, this is Daniel Krebs, Cybersecurity Coordinator for Monroe County. I can address that question. The ARMOR grant is essentially a financial mechanism, a financial support mechanism to help the county with vulnerabilities that were identified through a Grant Thornton vulnerability assessment across multiple state BOEs. A number of vulnerabilities were identified, the majority of which are common across the County Board of Elections, some of which include having single right media, but the one that's specifically addressed or will be specifically addressed by this grant will be allowing the county to network isolate operationally the Board of Elections network from the remainder of the county network, segmenting them from any potential threats such as malware, worms, or ransomware. Does that answer the question through the chair?
Thank you. I think so. As a follow-up, so will you be purchasing additional hardware, software as part of this referral?
Through the chair, yes, we'll be purchasing a next Cisco Firepower next-gen firewall, which will act as the brains of the logical isolation of the Board of Elections network. As an additional benefit, it will offer shared security to the county through real-time threat intel and other advanced threat protections.
Thank you. And through the chair, will this all be done in-house, or will you be contracting for some of this work?
Through the chair, this will be purchased and performed in-house and trained by the vendor.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion?
Legislator Hebert.
Legislator Hebert.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the chair, one question. Are there going to be any white hat type of hacking services to test out this capability?
Through the chair, yes, after the implementation, there will be a quality assessment done on the implementation itself and a significant testing done by Cisco's professional services.
Through you, Mr. President, to the administration, and those are effectively white hat type services?
Through the chair, yes.
Thank you. That's my last question, sir.
Any further
Legislator
discussion?
Boyce?
Legislator Boyce.
Yes, so we have the expert on there for cybersecurity. Were there any breaches this past election that we are aware of in Monroe County?
Through the chair, no, it was very quiet. It was unexpectedly quiet.
Thank you, sir.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries.
Item number 14, referral 20-0431, authorize a contract with Tech Information Systems LLC and V3 IT Consulting, Inc. for SAP staff augmentation services.
Move it, Mr. President.
Second.
Legislator Delahanty, seconded by Legislator Hebert. Is there any discussion?
Legislator Hebert.
Legislator Hebert.
Through you, Mr. President, to the administration, could the administration please provide a description of the nature of the services provided for this $450,000 per year?
Through you, Mr. President, I'm not sure if that's Mr. Krebs again or Justin Moore.
Mr. President, Liz Prescott, SAP Project Manager, available to answer that question. We have a vendor that provides production support, but in-house, we require additional SAP staff members to assist with purchasing, testing, and software changes. We have another contractor that does the financial, mostly software testing. Every time we make a change in SAP, we don't dare put that right into production. The consultants develop the code, and then my team does the testing in our test system and ensuring that it works properly before it goes to production. So I have 4 positions currently that make up that budget. And the third position is more of a technical security person. So they load data, they set up accounts, they make security changes with management and SAP super user approvals. And then the last one is an additional purchasing person, because we're making a lot of purchasing changes in preparation for our SAP upgrade in 21.
Thank you. Through Mr. President, the administration, that spawned a whole raft of questions in my mind. I'll try to keep it brief. Was your answer to indicate your staff or the staff that's hired through this this referral?
Through the President, the proposal, this contract is for staffing SAP for the Monroe County, which is the team that I lead. I hope that answered your question.
Through you, Mr. President, through the administration, so that means that your entire staff is contractors?
No, sir. Mr. President, I have 2 full-time employees and then the 4 additional contractors.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. President of the administration, are the 4 contractors, do they require specific skills for particular modules of SAP? Are they cross-functionally trained? Could you just describe them, their capabilities briefly?
Yes, through the President, each has different specific skills. The purchasing person just happens to have, one of them has, 20 years experience, a 4-year degree, did similar work at her previous employer. The finance person's a little bit younger, so doesn't have that much experience, maybe 10 years experience, but again, has done similar work for similar employers with a master's degree. My other purchasing person is more of a junior person, only 5 years experience, but has done purchasing work for other employers with a 4-year degree. And then my technical analyst has done similar work for other employers with 10 years experience and a bachelor's degree.
I'm going to thank you. Through you, Mr. President of the administration, try to keep this to 2 more questions. did we consider adding permanent Monroe County employees or temporary Monroe County employees, staff, instead of contracting for these services?
Through the president, yes, we have. And the going rate for full-time employees with the same set of skills is beyond any of the job codes and pay grades currently at the county.
For you, Mr. President, the administration, a follow-up question on that. With the $450,000 per year that we're looking to give a vendor, could we create new positions and fill them? And I do realize that SAP skills are in demand. Could we do that and stick to this amount of money or be under this? And then a related question, are they full-time with us or are they part-time with us?
Mr. President, this is Robert Franklin. If I could just jump in very briefly. Part of the response to that question is yes. In fact, the Finance Department is hiring one FTE position to take on some of the functions currently performed by contracted staff. And the pay group that has been authorized in the 2021 budget is actually represents a cost savings compared to the contracted rate we currently pay. So that's a partial answer, Mr. President. But there just aren't enough SAP savvy individuals in the greater Rochester area to actually bring on board as employed staff.
Understood. Thank you, Mr. Franklin. Follow-on question to that through you, Mr. President, to the administration. Are these individuals required to be on site, or could they work remotely, which would expand our potential pool of talented SAP programmers?
Yeah.
Through the president, Liz Prescott again. These 4 positions were designed to be on site. We have another contract with a more expertise SAP consulting firm, and they're all remote.
Thank you. Final question, I hope. Through you, Mr. President, the administration, what are we doing to eliminate or reduce the need for the special programming within SAP? I do realize that many years ago when SAP was first brought in, many organizations, governmental and private firms alike, customized SAP much to their current chagrin. Are we doing anything to try to cut down on the amount of work needed every time you do an upgrade, a bug fix, or whatever?
Through the president, yes, we are, sir. We are upgrading to the new version of SAP called HANA, and the maintenance requirements are supposed to be significantly less, as well as saving money out of the SAP budget allocated to the IS department for ongoing maintenance of SAP.
Thank you. A request through you, Mr. President, to the administration. Is there any way to get an estimate of what that might look like after the installation of the HANA modules?
Through the president, I have requested, I'm working with our SAP account representative to make sure we have those numbers ready for the director of IS and Mr. Franklin, but I haven't received that yet. I'm expecting that probably first quarter 21.
Final request then through you, Mr. President, to the administration. Could the legislature also receive a copy, please?
Through the president, yes.
Thank you. That was my last question, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 15, referral 20-0437, acceptance of a grant from the U.S. Department of Justice Office of Justice Programs for the Office for the Justice and Mental Health Collaboration Program, embedding clinicians and law enforcement agencies, and amend the resolution adopted pursuant to referral 20-0367, authorizing contracts for the provision of mental health, developmental disabilities, and alcoholism and substance abuse services.
Move it, Mr. President.
By Legislator Smith, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion?
I'll second that as well.
Also seconded by Legislator Boyce. Any discussion?
Yes, through the
Seeing none.
president. No,
Pardon?
through the president, Legislator Boyce. I have several questions with regards to this. Actually, I'm excited with regards to this, this grant being brought into Monroe County, but I do have a few questions as to how the acceptance of this grant will embed the clinicians and the law enforcement agencies. Through the president.
Go ahead.
Mr. President, we have Kelly Wilmot available to answer that.
Hello, this is Kelly Wilmot with the Office of Mental Health. Through the president, this grant specifically calls for the addition of 2 full-time fit clinicians who will be embedded with the Rochester Police Department.
Oh, so it'll go to the Rochester Police Department. Okay, thank you. Will there be any other agencies that'll benefit from this?
The grant through the president, the grant in particular addresses the RPD. However, we are adding another full-time position to the program, which will serve a countywide, all the various law enforcement departments that we are collaborating with.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Wilmot.
Mr. President?
Who's that? Legislator Barrow? Go ahead, Legislator Barrow.
Thanks, sir. Through you to the administration, do we have an estimate on when the additional full-time staff would begin?
Through the president, we are expecting to see the postings for the 2 new full-time positions to go up this week, and we would hope that new staff would be able to join us by February.
Thank you. And as a second follow-up question, through the president, do we anticipate that the additional staff will be able to cover overnight hours?
Through the president, yes, these 2 positions that will be assigned to the RPD will work from 7 p.m. until 3 a.m.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Any further discussion?
Legislator Felder.
Go ahead, Legislator Felder.
Has the Sheriff's Department been included in the discussions about the redesign of the 15? Through you, Mr. President.
Through the president, we have the FIT expansion has been discussed as part of the behavioral health task force work that we have been doing. We've had representation from various law enforcement departments at the table, and we continue to bring updates to them around the plans for expansion.
Okay, I want to ask directly: Is the Monroe County Sheriff's Department, Sheriff Baxter and his team, are they involved in the discussion? Because I believe it was the Sheriff's Department whose idea the 15 was initially in the first place. So I'm asking, is the Sheriff's Department involved in the discussions around the redesign? Through you, Mr. President.
Through the president, Under Sheriff Corey Brown has been part of the discussions with us.
Thank you.
Legislator Barnhart.
Go ahead, Legislator Barnhart.
Thank you. Through the president to the administration, has there been any discussion around using this grant for a non-law enforcement response to mental health calls?
Through the president, this grant is specifically awarded to create a co-response with law enforcement. So no, we have not had discussions about creating a non-law enforcement response at this time.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Are there any other matters to come before the Committee of the Whole? The Committee of the Whole stands adjourned and shall rise and report in the same matter as the Legislature Standing Committees. The December 15, 2020 special meeting of the Legislature is reconvened. There being no unfinished business.
Mr. President, I hate to interject at this time, and I just, I'm trying to manipulate seeing the referrals on my phone. With regards to item 15, item number 20-30367, I'd like to declare my interest.
Go ahead.
So noted.
So noted.
Thank you, sir.
There being no unfinished business, Legislator Brew.
Yes, this meeting of the Monroe County Legislature stands adjourned. The next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, January 12th, 2021